welcome and greetings. And this is the second webinar in the series for HCL Total Experience. And the topic for today is HCL DX new feature, Volt Foundry. What does it do? Just making sure that you can see me and hear me okay.
Yep, hear you good.
Okay, let's go. All right, so what is HCL Volt Foundry? It is, at the core, it is a standard-based enterprise-grade middleware services. So it is through Foundry that your client application will be able to integrate with virtually any backend, like databases or REST or SOAP endpoint, and bring those into your application. And throughout the lifetime of the product, we have shown that we can reduce your time to market by 60%, okay? I'm gonna have to go fairly fast because I want to show you a live demo of Foundry of our middleware. Okay, so now let's go. What are the major capabilities of Volt Foundry? And you can see here in this list, identity service is one, integration, orchestration, object service, workflow, and business rule. So if you set up an identity service in Foundry, you will use that to control access to the other services, well, like integration. So integration is the ability where you can integrate with a SOAP or REST endpoint. For example, if you need an AI service, you would use integration to connect to ChatGPT and exchange data with it. And then orchestration is the ability to daisy chain multiple integration service into one call. So for example, let's say you have a field engineer who has an app and he needs to go out, and what he does in the morning is look up his task for the day. Okay, but what you can do is you can use his GPS, you can look up his location, use his location to look up the weather, and if you see that he's under heavy snow or rain, you give him a different task list. Okay, so all those calls combine into one call instead of your client application doing 3 or 4 calls just to get to that point. Okay, so that's orchestration. Then object is the ability to exchange data with for example, a SQL database like Oracle. And then do note that the offline capability is also part of object service. Okay, and then finally, workflow and business rules. So workflow is a visual workflow that you can implement in Volt Foundry middleware, and that it will offload your client application from having to run that workflow. So you can bring that into the middleware and have it run there. Okay, and then business rule is a set of decision point that you can set up and then use that rules within Foundry. Okay. Now under API management, you have control access to the APIs that you set up within Foundry. You can apply rate limit or throttling, right? And then you can reuse a service. And that is also one of the major difference between us and some of our competitors. So if you set up an integration and a service, for example, okay, and you dedicate that to an application, if you wish to use that same service to another application for our competitors, they actually have to clone it. So in effect, you're taking up more disk space, more resources, and throughout the development process, you have to apply QA to that second clone service. But for us, it is what you have done, you created in the past is completely reusable, reshareable. Okay, so that's API management. And in terms of security, of course, it's about securing the exchange of data between your client application and the backends. But in most cases, your Foundry will integrate with multiple backends, right? And each one of those backends can have different tokens. So security is, in this case, is the ability to manage all those tokens for you. Okay. And then finally, the ability for Foundry, our middleware, to do analytics and reports, and we'll show you some of that in the live demo. Okay. Then it's not just us saying it. Gartner, has shown that 75% of a development project is the integration to the back ends, right? And so HCL MX actually will help you to get there, time to market at least 60% faster. Okay. Now, Volt Foundry is known as data integration simplified. Okay, so what that means is you can visually map your application to backends and to databases, to APIs, and you can do all that, for using visual mapping and configuration within a few mouse clicks. So, for example, you see here, right? This is a visual mapping between a data model, a Foundry data model, and a backend. It could be a SQL database, right? And so you would use visual mapping and configuration as opposed to writing code. So that is how we accelerate the ability for you to integrate many backends. Okay. And so using Foundry, in effect, your developers and designer can focus on building great apps, or instead of spending their time trying to integrate backends. All right. These are some of the adapters that comes out of the box. And altogether, we actually have about 400 different adapters, and some of them, are available from our marketplace that you can download into Foundry. But let's take a look at some of these. Enterprise adapters are, identity service. So, Microsoft AD is supported, Open LDAP, Salesforce, SAP, SAML, and very common OAuth 2 and Okta. Okay. Then there are also social sign-on that's available out of the box if you wish to use that as a way to authenticate your user. So Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Amazon, etc. Okay. Then in terms of technical adapters, so the ability to integrate to a SOAP or REST endpoint. So just these three, you should be able to connect to any API out there available in the world, right? Such things as AI like ChatGPT or weather service or news service, all of those, okay? And then in terms of enterprise business adapters, Foundry can also connect to MuleSoft, another middleware, right? And so you'll be able to integrate and exchange data with MuleSoft. But then relational database, any SQL database like Oracle DB, MySQL, SQL Server, even PostgreSDB can be connected through Foundry, okay? And then make that DB available to your front end application, okay? MongoDB, non-SQL type of DB, okay? And then look here at the bottom of this middle column, Open API Swagger document. So you have the ability to import a Swagger document that describe an API, and then have Foundry set up the operation so that you can use these services. So a very good example is Total Experience DX. DX has a number of APIs, and it has Swagger documents. So what you can do is download those Swagger documents and import it into Foundry, and then set up the integration that way. Okay. Much of the setup and configuration will be done for you because the Swagger document will have the detailed description of the required input and output parameters and the operation that's supported by the API. Okay. So then, our pre-built adapters and then also adapters from Marketplace should help you get your development process of your application very quickly. Okay. Okay, next screen. So here in this slide, I want to point out some of the more important feature of each one of the service. For example, in the object service, the ability to connect to backend storage databases. App data model is very important. And so app data model allow you to map the input params into your service to the backend, right? So let's say that you are using Oracle DB and you have a app data model set up. And if you want to switch that backend into something else like MongoDB, for example. So it's a matter of clone this app data model, rearranging the visual mapping between the input and MongoDB. And then when you will confirm that is working correctly, you switch the data model, okay? And your service, whatever you create in Foundry, will continue to work as before, okay? And for backend services, the ability to optimize and transform is also very important. And so what does this mean? So for input parameters to your backend service, you have the ability to run what we call pre-processor. So the ability to use your set of code to massage the input into the service call, okay? And then there are also what we call post-processor that you can use to transform the output of your service into something that's more friendly for your client application to use, okay? So that's pre and post-processor, okay? They're under API management, all the service that you create can be versioned, right? And so versioning is supported so that you can keep track of the difference between releases, okay? Under analytics, metrics is also very important. So custom metric, custom reporting. So you have the ability to embed into your client application custom peg counters if you want. And then using the analytics and reporting tools in Foundry to create a custom report in addition to the standard report that come out the box, okay? And then engagement services is also part of Foundry. So the ability to send push notification to your application, right? Whether that's a native app or a web app. So push notification through engagement. Then of course for security, everyone asks for single sign-on, and that is supported. Now in terms of workflow, what's important here is the ability or the different ability to trigger your workflow. So it could be either through a data or event. Okay, so what I mean by data is an object service has a status of something, right? So whatever that row of data has that service, then it will trigger your workflow, or your workflow can also be triggered by event. So some sort of a request coming in into an integration endpoint can also trigger your workflow. Okay, so there are different ways to trigger your visual workflow. Okay, and then rules. The basic tenet here is that rules is a service. So once you set up rules, you'll be able to use it, with the many different services throughout Foundry. Okay, then of course offline data. The major part here is conflict resolution, right? So you have the ability to say, okay, if there's a conflict in update coming into Foundry, who wins, right? Well, is it the client win or the server win? Or you can also set up custom conflict resolution, okay? Now do note there are SDK available for the different environments. So there are SDK for JavaScript or SDK that you can use whether it's you do your client development in iOS or Android. Okay. Now let's talk about total experience and specifically, DX and VOMX. This is a screen of the typical lab that's coming out of a DX that's been set up, okay? And you see here the three labs, right? Woodburn Studio, Woodburn Healthcare, Woodburn Store, and then this lists the APIs that's available. And really, this one is usually the most interesting, the digital asset, right? So the digital assets, and then some of the other one, access control, etc. So because DX has APIs And Foundry can integrate all these REST endpoints. So in effect, what you can do here is DX will provide the APIs to Foundry. Foundry will integrate them and provide that as a service back into DX. And then anything else that Foundry is connected to, databases, AI service, right? It will now be available to add to DX. So in effect, this Vault Foundry is now the single source of truth, or can be the single source of truth for DX, right? So DXs have to go to Foundry for all the backend data exchange. Okay. All right. So that's enough for that. Let's go into the Vault Foundry, our middleware, and we'll be able to, or I'll be able to show you a few demos and the in-depth detail of our middleware. Okay. So I'm going to sign on here. All right. So immediately, when you first log into Foundry, under the left-hand side navigation, you are in what we call apps, okay, or Foundry apps. So these are a collection of APIs or services in Foundry that you have previously set up. So for example, if we look at this one, this is a name entity, and it has identity service, one identity service, right? It has a few integration service, and it has one orchestration service. Okay. Now, the difference between this, a Foundry apps, and the API management layer or navigation pane is that anything that you have done in the past in terms of creating identity service or integration service, okay, they are listed here and they are completely reusable. Okay. Going through that advantage that I show you, anything you do in the past will be listed here. You can manage, you can apply control to each one of these services, and you can completely reuse them. Okay, objects and workflow. So for example, let's look at identity service. And you can see the different type of identity service here. And then this one that we just briefly looked at, actually, I click on the wrong link. Let me look at the view. So you can see here that identity service is actually being used by 4 different apps, right? So reusable is the key. Okay, so let's look at these 6 major capability one by one. So under the identity service, when I click on configure new and the type of identity service, out the box, you get support for Microsoft AD, OpenLDAP, Salesforce, Okta, and OAuth 2. Okay, these are the social sign-on that's available immediately. Okay. Under integration, when we click on configure new and the service type, out the box you get, SOAP and REST endpoint or a JSON endpoint, right? And for business adapters, probably the most important one is relational database, right? So you have the ability to connect to your backend database, okay? And then here's that open API Swagger. So we will do a demo where where I will show you how a Swagger from DX is import, and then you can run a real live test operation, okay? And then these are some of the other one. And don't forget, Marketplace also have a number of adapters that you can download and use within Foundry. Now in orchestration, um, actually, orchestration is the ability to daisy chain these integration service. So let's look at this one, okay? This is a bulk upsert or insert capabilities into salesforce.com. And the operation here is called bulk upsert, right? And you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but the execution type is sequential, okay? So we are going to run 3 different integration operation here. Post job 1, data 2, upload 3, all in one shot. Okay, now where are these? So if you note, it's called FIS board upsert 1. So if we go back to here in the integration, we should see FIS right here. Okay, so these are the three operations, right, for integration. And if you don't use orchestration, your client application will have to run 3 different calls. Do this one, and this one. So very inefficient. Use orchestration to group them into one call. So one call right here, and that call will trigger these 3 sequentially. Okay. Uh, and then under object, if we hit configure new, you will see, you have the ability to integrate to a SQL database, to MongoDB, SAP, Salesforce, AWS S3, right? File storage, some of the typical backend storage and databases that you want to integrate with and exchange data with, right? And then no, there's also a data storage here. This is a very lightweight SQLite table, okay? You can use that immediately out of the box if you have to set up some sort of a very small lookup table, right? And so that's immediately out of the box. And then you also have the ability to create object service on top of integration service. This option right here, okay? So why would you want to do that? But before I answer that question, let's look here. Offline capability is a single click, right? So once you click that, this Foundry object service will be offline capable, right? So your application will be able to run in offline mode, without network. And then once there's network, they are synchronizing between the two, your client application and with Foundry object service. Okay, so the combination of these two means that any API service that you set up in the integration can now work in offline. Let's say you have some sort of a document storage where you provide instruction to your field engineer, right? And so through these combination, you will make that offline capable. So your engineer should be able to look up instruction while he's offline out in the field somewhere where there is no network. Okay, so that's the purpose of these two, right? Okay, and then workflow. Uh, it's easier when we look at workflow is to look at an actual one that's been created. And so this workflow is for quote approval, so insurance, okay? So let's look at the node one by one. There's a new quote coming in. We're going to get the customer data. We're going to see if he's eligible to get a quote. If he's not, we're going to update the database and end the workflow. Otherwise, we're going to get the base premium of the insurance. Then we're going to use an AI service to determine if he qualifies for additional discount or maybe he has too many DWI, right? And things like that, okay? But what are these one by one? They are made up of the things that you created here, right? An integration service, an orchestration service, an object service. And then in this case, for this particular visual workflow, it is triggered by an object service, and particularly that table is named quote, right? So when I look at quote, it is the new state within this table, right? There's a new row coming in, it is new. It triggered this workflow. And then when that workflow happens, we use an integration service, right? One of these to look up the customer and rule, check eligibility. It's just a rules, one of these, right? So we're going to see if he qualifies. And if he doesn't qualify, it's just updating an object service. That's what that is. Now get premium, again, is another rules, one of these, okay? Then we're gonna call to get to access to the AI service. So it's an integration service, get the token, log into the backend service, also an integration. And finally, a call to exchange data with that AI service. Again, it's an integration, okay? And finally, an update, which is an object right. Okay, so that's visual workflow. You'll be able to create these in the middleware itself and offload any workflow that you have from the client application. So instead of having to run this on the client application, save the client resource and have it run here within the middleware. Okay, and then we also looked at rules previously. So let's look at some of these. For example, in very plain, almost plain language, you set up a rules as a service, right? So here is the quote premium. So what is the car year, right? Between what year and what year, they give you the base premium. And here is the rules to check on that customer. Does he have DWI? Is the license expanded? Does he have too many tickets, violation, etc.? Right? You set up the rules whether he's approved or not approved. Okay. So that's looking at each one of the major capabilities of Whole Foundry: identity, integration, orchestration, etc. Okay. Now let's do a real demo. So we're going to go back to our apps and we're going to look at this DX service. Okay. Under DX service, I have an integration here, and it's called a Swagger. So in effect, what I have here is in one of my Sophie, I have DX running. Okay, and can't see this. So in the demo home, the virtual server is SBX 200, and you can see that here, right? That's the server. Okay. In the demo home, remember we went through this screen. There are a number of APIs, and each one of these API has Swagger document. So for example, if we'll focus on the digital asset, that's the Swagger document. I downloaded that and I import it here. Okay. Once it's here, we can go into the operation list and then we can extract the operation that we want to set up. One of these, right? So let's say we're going to focus on the collection, right? Using this operation to get the collection, okay? And then, we can also do another one like get collection by collection ID. So a collection is here, all right? Under the Woodburn Studio, I have actually 4 collections here. So one of them is called OpenAI. So these are images generated by ChatGPT. Okay, Woodburn Bank, external parties, and something about investment images. Now in OpenAI, I have 2 different images. One is a family looking at a starship. Not sure if you can see it, but there's a starship right there with the fires underneath the rocket, right? And then there's another image of a farmer working on sunset. Okay, so that's the collections that we have, right? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna leverage this API integrated into Foundry, right? And so once you do this integration and you select an operation list, you can see, you can actually see the different operation that's supported by this API. It's actually taking a little longer, so I actually have a picture of it here. But it will list all the operations here, and that you can use them to create the service that you need. Okay. And so I have done some of them already. For example, this collection. Get all collection, right? And remember, the input parameter is set up by going through the motion of creating or retrieving the operation from the Swagger document. So all this is set up for you, including the response, right? All the output parameters is set up for you, okay? And then just to prove that it worked, you can test within Foundry. I'm going to click on Save and Fetch. And then what I should see in the response or the output of the response are the collection. I should see, let it run a little bit. I should see the 4 collections, right? OpenAI, Woodburn Bank, external party investment, okay? And there's the result coming back. gonna expand this. And so you see there's an array here, right? OpenAI is the very first one, OpenAI creation, okay, that's the data. The second one is Woodburn Bank, okay, Woodburn Bank, etc. So we've shown that we can prove, we can exchange data with DX, okay? Now let's say I want to do one more thing, right? I want to get the OpenAI, all right? I'm going to use the ID. So where's the ID? The ID, right here, okay? Ending in A3B0. So I'm going to use this ID to run and test my next operation here. It's called get action, get collection by collection ID. And so you see, once you set up this operation, again, all the input parameters and output parameters are done for you. And then you just have to provide the actual ID. So this is the actual ID of that OpenAI collection, okay? Hit save and run again to just to make sure that our middleware can exchange data with DX. Okay, here's the data again. I'm going to expand it, and then you can see that there an array of two, right? Two images. Remember, we have the sunset and the family starship. Okay, sunset farmer. Okay, and then there should be the family starship right here. Okay, and just again, just to prove that this is actual data, right? We can actually pull or just to fetch this. Okay, where's my host? My host is here. Let's copy this host. I'm missing an H. So I go here, Control V. Okay, I need the rest of the. So let's look at the family starship. Okay. Okay, gonna copy that. Go to here, paste it in, and hit enter. Okay, so this is an image from DX under the digital asset, pull in through the ability to import a Swagger document from the API. Okay, just to confirm, there it is. That image should be there. Okay, so that's the very first demo using integration service to pull content from DX. Okay. Now, in the second demo, I'm going to show you the ability to run orchestration, okay? So this service is called bulk upsert, right? So when you talk to a Salesforce account, you can use bulk upsert, which is the ability to do multiple insert into Salesforce, right? And before you can do that, there's of course a Salesforce identity service that you have to authenticate, right? And be allowed to get access service. So this is that setup, right? You can see the identity is Salesforce, right? And you can immediately test from here. So test login, and because I have login previously, it you reuse that token and give me back, okay, Nguyen is logging in, okay? So you can test from Foundry as you can do from many of the different services that you built, okay? Then under integration, in order to do this bulk insert, you have to run three different jobs, okay? There's a post job one, and you can see the back end of this integration service is actually a Salesforce backend, right? mysalesforce.com, okay? So this announced to Salesforce there will be a job coming in, okay? The second call is giving it data. What are the accounts or the name of the companies I'm going to insert into account, right? And then the final call is telling Salesforce, okay, that I'm done uploading data. Now Salesforce, you do what you need to do and then show me my account, okay? All right. So, but notice this is 3 different calls by your client application. We're not going to do that because it's very inefficient. We're going to use orchestration, and there's only one call from your client, and it's going to run those 3 calls sequentially, right? That's the execution type. Post job 1, post data, and upload 3, okay? Now, before I run this, I want to show you my Salesforce account, okay? So under Salesforce account, when we look at the all account, okay? So this is the list of account. And let's say we're going to insert an account called triple or quadruple A second webinar, okay? So right now, if we search in here, there should not be, come on, A, okay? There isn't one with 4 A's. There's 3 A's and 3 A's, but there is a one with 4 A's, okay? All right, so now let's go back here, and just like the rest of the previous demo I show you, you can immediately click Save and Fetch, okay? And, oh, okay, what is this telling me? That my token has expired. I will have to retoken. So relog in is basic. Let me go through there. Okay, go to orchestration, click in bulk upsert, and click in save and fetch again. Oh man. So let me try to log in again to Foundry. And show you that demo, the Salesforce bulk insert demo. Okay, here. Orchestration, the bulk upsert operation, click save and fetch. Okay, and you saw that it went through Salesforce login, and it's reusing that token. And then the first thing you see are a bunch of errors. Okay, well, that's because we have not provided an input names of account to be inserted. So I'm going to go to here, and then we're just gonna copy this line of data. Okay, Control C to copy, and we're going to insert a company called AAAA second webinar. Okay, so I'm going to go here, paste, and hit play or execute, right? And then you can see those 3 operations. Uh, the general op status is 0, which is good, right? Post job 1 is also 0. That means that first call success. Post data 2 is also 0, that means a success. And then 3 is also 0, which means a success. So that means that Salesforce should have inserted that company, okay? So let's switch to contact, come back to account, and go back to our account, and there it is. AAAA, Second Webinar Corp. And we can also check the details because we provided the number of employees, right? So that's the template of the data format. The number of employees is 54,321. So number of employees 54,321. Okay, so that proves that our orchestration works, right? And we are able to use a single call instead of 3. Okay, so that's the demo for orchestration. And you already seen object service and workflows, but let's look at object service in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to pick on this one, right? It's called photo blog. So it's the ability to create photo blogs, right? And so these are the operation. And let's look at when you create one blog, the actual post. And remember when I say it's visual mapping, okay? That's visual mapping. That's how you map between your input parameters and the backend storage. Okay. So very quickly, Full Foundry will help you to integrate to virtually any backends out there. Okay. All right. So that's the two demo. Let's now look at some of the rest of the administration throughout Foundry. So let's look at developer portal. So what is developer portal? So um, if you have a Foundry service that you want to share to third party, you can use developer portal to document that service and then share. So I actually have a customer in Houston, Texas, which is a car dealership, right? And so they have a service that determine the value of a used car based on certain condition like number of miles or the number of repairs. And over time, they actually have a very robust service, and they use developer portal to share this service with other dealerships throughout Houston. Okay, so for example, here is one called OpenAI Public, and if I click on this one, but actually I'm just going to click here. Where'd it go? Oh, here. Okay, so it should launch that portal, the OpenAI Public, and from here, right, the person that received this API can now actually test the service, right? So for ChatGPT, you can do a typical chat. You can ask for it to create images, and then when you click on view, right, you'll be able to use this to set up on how you talk to Foundry, particularly this chat service. Okay, so that's development portal, and then one of the other major capabilities is reporting and dashboards, real-time dashboards, and custom metrics. Okay, so in reports out of the box, Foundry support I think over 30 different type of reports, and you can see here, right? Active user, application error detail, breadcrumbs from crash, a session length, uh, object service performance, right? And then most interesting to me is where are my user coming from, right? So I can actually do very quick from beginning of the year to now. Uh, where are my user, right? So mainly through in the US, right? But then also in Brazil, there's some from Brazil, right? So this foundry is just for me to do demos. So that's why you will see most of the traffic will come from the US, but there should be also some from Germany, right? So 37, Australia, there's some from 35, right? So my users are coming from where's Korea? There's some from Korea also. Okay, all over the world. Now, what's most important to me for typically management throughout the day, I look at the real-time dashboard. Okay, so this is the reports generated by Foundry in real time based on the traffic that it monitors, right? So here you can see user versus name versus anonymous user, right? Traffic is coming from in the US is mainly Texas, Georgia, and Virginia, right? Um, if I look at the world map, again, it's mainly US, Germany, Australia, right? And here are some of the recent usage, okay? The integration service, okay? And then for me, this one is very beneficial. The service performance, and you can see that for this service called ES dashboard, it actually takes 3.7 seconds, like right here, right? It takes 3.7 seconds. So nearly 3 seconds is external call, and then sub part of that is the internal processing. Okay, so if I want to, maybe I want to speed up this service, this will be the one I focus on, right? And so we can also see this one, get account from salesforce.com, right? And it took about half a second, right? And equal in external call versus internal processing, okay? So that's some of the real-time dashboard that you can get out of the box immediately from Foundry. And of course, the ability to create custom reports out of the custom metrics that you embed in your application, okay? You will be able to do all that here. Okay, so I think that's a in-depth look of Foundry, right? You saw the difference between a Foundry app, which is a collection of Foundry service or collection of APIs. Under API management, anything that you've done are completely reusable versus some of our competitors, right? They are listed here. You can apply access control, right? Who gets access to this service? Whether that's integration, identity or orchestration, object service, workflow, etc., right? And then you can also apply a rate limit to each one of these services so that they don't get overwhelmed in case you've been attacked, for example, right? So you can apply rate limit, okay? Okay, so let's recap. So you saw, with both Foundry middleware, we will help you to get your time to market reduced by 60%, right? The major services, okay? And then for TX, right? So the ability to Vault Foundry to use any of DX API, right? And you saw that we gave you a demo, right? And then Vault Foundry is connecting to other backend, your SQL database, your any REST or SOAP endpoint. And so Vault Foundry then become a single source of truth for DX, right? But then you can also take a specialized app that's generated by Vault Foundry and embedded into DX. Let's say, for example, the insurance quote, that workflow. Once you set that up in MX, in Vault MX, right, you can embed that entire workflow in DX as one of the a web portal. Okay, so very beneficial relationship between the two DX and MX. Okay, so that's conclude my webinar, and I want to show you the in-depth look of Vault Foundry, its capability, and give you some demos.